why don't you start off with a little bit about how it feels to be back home, coming back to New Orleans?
Nah, super grateful to be back here. Just be back in New Orleans. I love this organization. I think for my 3 years being gone, like playing for two different organizations, I've always appreciated how things are done here. Uh, on a personal side, I get to come back, be with my family. Last year, I was in Buffalo. My wife and kids didn't travel with me, so that kind of sucked. But when I got that call, come back here. Be part of this organization. I was pretty fired up, and I told my agent, like, let's lock in on this one and try to get this done.
I heard you tell Matt Moscona yesterday that the idea of being able to come back to New Orleans was kind of compounded with your familiarity with guys like Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley. Can you tell us a little bit about your kind of impressions of them and what it feels like to be back in the room with those guys?
Yeah, so when my last year in LA, Kellen became the OC, and that was a super fun year for me. Started a good bit of games for them that year, and I was saying, the other day that, that offense that we ran that year was like by far my favorite offense that I've been in. Everything was, from the playbook to how we went about our business on game day, everything about it, everybody in our O-line room and on the offense loved it, and I'm excited to get back in there. Playing for Brandon for 2 years, super thankful for him for giving me the opportunity to come out to LA. Uh, he's, crazy smart coach. Loved, being around him. His knowledge of the game is, at a point where, you're feeding off this knowledge that you're getting from him. I felt like I grew a lot as a player, being on the scout field, listening to him, and excited to see what he can do here. And then, the rest of the coaches, played with, Nugent, Nussmeier, all those guys. So just excited to get back to work with the whole staff.
Will, what was it specifically that you liked about Kellen's offense?
My favorite part about it was, the terminology part of it. So I've been in, a couple different offenses now throughout my time in the league, and I just remember everything just being like to the point. Nothing was crazy wordy. Everything had a meaning. So like everything was grouped together. To where like, even if you like didn't know exactly what was going on, like you could figure it out by the way certain things were worded and grouped. Not to get like into too much detail about it, but my that was I remember like the point of his offense was like we are going to play fast. Like everything's gonna be simple. We're going to play fast and we're going to execute. And I feel like that's what made has what made Kellen such a great play caller since he's gotten in the league.
One of the things that Kellen's talked about a lot is like figuring out the superpowers of players and how to play or lean into those superpowers. It's easy for us to kind of guess what that looks like for skill position guys, but what does that look like for an offensive lineman?
Yeah, I think everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Some players might be, your right side might be like, hey, these guys are crazy good together on the these deuce blocks, moving people. Our left side, hey, they get great movement on a cutoff on a backside or something like that. So I think the point of the coaches is like when they're putting together these plans, they're saying, hey, well, we might run this play a couple times to the right because the matchups on the right side and how they go about their business this play can probably hit a little better to the right. And then after we've gone it, we might, go to the left and let those guys go to work. But I think the coaches do a great job of understanding who people are and, playing to those strengths.
What are some of the strengths in your game that they played to when you were with them over in Los Angeles?
I think that's probably a huge question, but I feel like my strengths have always been, one, I feel like I've always prided myself on knowing who I am. You know, when I go out on the field, I feel like I know I've always tried to keep myself out of the bad positions that I can't recover from. I remember as a young player, Nuge telling me, he's like, "Hey man, you are very good at these certain things, so we are going to always try to make sure you're in this position and try to stay away from the stuff that had that I can't really do very well." So I feel like that's probably my biggest strength is just knowing who I am, trying to stay out of positions, and never overextending myself into a spot of trying to be somebody like an Eric McCoy who, is one of our top centers in the league. And I'm very aware. Not going to be Eric. I'm going to play my game and do things how I do it.
Will, is there kind of a generic layman's way to describe the run blocking scheme that Kellen and Brennan like to run? I mean, obviously we had a very defined one in Clint Kubiak's sort of Shanahan style offense last year, but what's the sort of the main emphasis of the run blocking in this scheme?
I would say it's the way to describe it is probably anything and everything. They will use anything that will expose a weakness or anything that we feel like we will just that our group can do better than your group. I don't think they're married to one scheme. I think that's one of their biggest strengths is they're not saying, well, this is what we do and like we're just going to run it. It's, hey, does what we do well match up against what they're going to give us? And we are going to try and marry that together.
Will, did they talk to you at all about what your role is going to be here? Are you coming in to compete for a starting job? You're going to be kind of doing what you were doing your previous stint here as kind of swing guy?
I have not talked to them about any roles. Nothing's been defined yet. Uh, I think when I come in the building, it's just going to be just like everybody. I think it's going to be a fresh slate. Start from there. Everybody's going to start at the same level, and we all go to work. I think these coaches know me well enough that I'll just come in and work and be ready to go whenever they ask me to.
What has sort of your ratio become at what you've played? Most of those starts in LA came at center or left and right guard experience as well since you've left here?
Yeah, so when I went to LA, I strictly became a center. I We had a very good center in Corey Lindsley that I backed up. Uh, started a few games my first year there, and then the next year Corey had an injury issue, and I started I think 11 games that year until I hurt my knee against Thursday Night Football. Uh, and then went on IR for the rest of the year. But that's mainly where my work's come. This past year in Buffalo, I started one game at guard when they week 18 when we rested the starters. But yeah, most of my work's been at center since I've left.
Well, you got a few former LSU guys on this team that you played with. What are your kind of thoughts of being back with Devon and Foster and Clyde?
Yeah, so I've gotten to play a good bit against Devon the last couple of years. We played him my last year in LA, played him this year. The week 18 game I started. He's, kind of crazy to see his development. He's turned himself into one of the premier run stoppers of our league. We were same recruiting class, got a ton of reps against him in the 3 years we were together at LSU, and excited to see what he can do. I mean, he just super strong point of attack, eats double teams. I think he's going to fit in perfect for Staley's defense. Super excited to be back with Foster. One of my very good friends from LSU was a groom to my wedding. Uh, you know, Texting him the other day and letting him know I was coming back. It was fun catching up. Just being back around him, and then getting to be close to the rest of those guys. Excited to see Clyde. Played one year with him at LSU, and then running into him when we were playing against each other in LA versus the Chiefs. Tyrann Mathieu, great player in this league, great player at LSU, and obviously somebody from New Orleans. So just excited to be around all these guys.
Will, I think if I'm not mistaken, this is year 8 for you coming up. Do you think this was going to be a possibility when you were a seventh round pick back in 2018? You have almost a decade in the league.
Yeah, I definitely did not. I was not thinking of longevity at that point. I was thinking, my rookie year coming into a loaded team. That team went to the NFC Championship that year, and just thinking, man, I have a lot of ground to make up to make this 53-man roster. And I think I've taken that, mentality my whole career. I've never been a guy who's, penciled in day one starter or a guy that's like, hey, this guy's for sure on our roster. I've come into camp every year and I've had to work, play well, and have good camps to make teams and stick around. And I've never once taken it for granted or you know given up on myself when things haven't gone right. So to answer your question, Noah, I haven't really thought about it in terms of longevity like that. I was just more of a year to year. I'm ready to compete and earn a job.
Will, and following up on that question, what have you learned about the NFL since you were drafted by the Saints? Obviously, you got to be a different person being in this league for a while right now.
Yeah, I mean this is the toughest league to be in. I mean the weekly transactions. I mean I've been just me personally I've been cut on day of a game, day after games. You think you're playing well, you get released. It's something that you know like I said, you have to have constant belief in yourself because it's a tough league, and but at the same time, it's the most fun I've ever had in my life. I'm absolutely addicted to being an NFL player. I still enjoy when I go out during training camp and get to compete in team periods. My wife always, she'll always ask me like, when do you think you retire? And I'm like, honestly, I'm still having so much fun with it because I'm addicted to the competition, and that's what, that I think that's what, makes you want to stay in this league so much.